think this was almost 4 years ago. I don't think I remember that specific case, but I can speak to the general takedowns we did, like that I participated in, which I will say before I was hired onto the team was already trying to do takedowns, both the civic team and the site integrity also spam team, which I believe spun out of part of protect and care. This is all in the lineage that Arturo is talking to. I mean, these teams change names a lot, but the people are basically the same. It's a reorg, rebranding, and like sometimes it's the same name and it's a whole bunch of different people. Sometimes it's totally like 5 different names, but it's the same people who on the IC level who are like powering the work. And I think the kind of case that you're talking about, Jeff, I helped with a bunch of them, but like when I joined the team, I want to just be clear on my role in this. I'm a PM. Like the investigative work was done before I joined. My role was really trying to make sure it was shepherded through and palatable, and like work through the details and help pressure test with the ops team and the data scientists and the engineers to make sure we had something we could ship, because it was one of those things that wasn't very clearly anyone's job. Without a policy around do a lot of takedowns, you couldn't have a lot of ops people saying like, we know what we're doing, we can just go and do a bunch of this and we have clearance to get it shipped. Without ops folks reviewing things, the engineers couldn't write sort of code to systematize it and didn't have an incentive to write code to help them do investigations more efficiently. There was no top-down directive to do this sort of work. There was just a top-down directive to sort of like vaguely figure out, but to my point earlier, like we didn't really have a lot of headcount on that team. I had not been hired yet in that world. Directives really are the strength of the resources you put behind them. So the sort of enthusiasm expressed vaguely, it would be great if this problem went away, without a ton of resources behind it, in reality was not a resource directive. So I would say this like effort was really funded by IC enthusiasm. When we talk about like, Facebook has 70,000 employees, a small number talk to Jeff, are the rest, in our conversation before we started, Steve, like, are these good people? Like, do they try? Do they care? Absolutely. Like, this is essentially people volunteering, not in their time off, but in their work time where they don't know if they're going to get a good end of half review about it. Everyone working on this was very passionate about doing it. But it's really messy. So to your point, Jeff, like when you look at cases that are somebody is trying to speak in for their civic voice. They're talking about politics. We can't be like, don't talk about politics. That's silly. They're also trying to make money, because what influencer isn't trying to make money? And they're trying to get more of an audience, because what influencer isn't trying to get more of an audience? And they may use techniques that we may not have expressly forbidden, but like sort of go with each other, and to amplify their audience to be much bigger than anybody else's. Like have multiple pages and boost their own pages up, like things like that, and so on and so forth. And if we have rules that say, only post X number of times a day, maybe they start extra accounts to post more times than that, and so on and so forth. And we had this spectrum of cases that on the one hand were like, you're doing all those things I listed, plus you're based in Pakistan, which is like, actually, I should even go further. Plus you're based in Russia, which is definitely bad, and like you literally work for the KGB. If that were a case, which, like, I don't think we had a ton of those, but to the extent that we did, obviously we don't want those down. Those are literally foreign information operations. Then you have the ones who are based in Pakistan and trying to sell t-shirts. They're just trying to turn American political dollars into t-shirts. And then you have these influencers who are Americans who may also be trying to sell t-shirts. I mean, there's really a lot of people trying to sell t-shirts at this time. And then you have folks who are just trying to become famous, at the very end of the maybe like most close to normal civic speech, of which you have political actors just trying to like have a larger voice. And our realization as a team was that somewhere along the spectrum, we were not like these folks were together, forming the majority of political opinion, often in a less nuanced and a less factually accurate sort of way than the default of the conversation from normal people talking to their friends would be. And it was just very gnarly to try to figure that out. So again, this is a case where it feels like there aren't enough resources, because you're like 6 people working on your time off who don't really have a core meeting planned around this, kind of trying to find a way forward. And then of course there are tons of resources, because if we had the clear authority or the directive to solve the problem, you have, you've 6, 10, 20 people available at any moment to solve this problem.